MediaTech Ventures Community Spotlight brought to you by Insperity, powerful HR solutions with exceptional follow-through. HR that makes a difference. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Community Spotlight. I'm your host, John Zazzaro, President and co-founder of MediaTech Ventures, with the one and only Mr. Hugh Forrest, Chief Programming Officer, also Director of Interactive of South by Southwest. Really appreciate you taking the time today to join us, Hugh. How are you doing?
Good, John. Thanks for having me on. It's a great honor to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity to share some of my thoughts and insights with your community.
Absolutely. Mi casa es tu casa, right? I feel like we're two peas in a pod. I like to think so. Let's get through it. There's a lot to cover in a short amount of time. And first question, you were the first paid employee, right, at South by Southwest back in 1989, and you were brought on, right, because you had a computer and they didn't, right? I like to call that
you have done your research, John.
Well, yeah, right. Well, yeah. Well, it's funny. I like to call that the David Lee Roth, right? And my first question is really around, what was South by Southwest like back in 1989, and what are some of your earliest memories?
Well, it was exactly like it is now, except infinitely smaller. No, not quite. We didn't really have in many ways, I think your question is spot on to where we are for 2021, because we didn't have a framework to pattern ourselves after. And so that was a huge challenge and stressful in many ways. And again, that's very similar to where we are in December 2020 as we move into 2021 of not having a framework. But certainly in 1989, when the event started, or event actually started in 1987, but those first few years we were entirely focused on music. It was a little more of a regional event, although still, there was always this idea that it wasn't just Austin, that we're trying to be national and international. Again, you've done your research that I was hired because I had a computer and they didn't, or had a printer and they didn't. Certainly our technology tools, were prehistoric compared to what we have now. We are beyond my little Mac Plus. We had a fax machine, and that was, where so much of the business was done by the fax machine. So all those things very, very different than what we are now. Beyond the idea of not having a framework to pattern ourselves after, a commonality between then and now is a focus on creativity, trying to get, wow, this is a really creative band, this is a really creative singer-songwriter, this is a really creative music industry professional. And as much as the event has changed and morphed and gotten bigger and covered new verticals and expanded and all those good things and some not good things, that focus on creativity is still very much the heart of the event, and works because, Austin is always a city that's prized and celebrated and generated creative people. So there.
I love that. And so speaking about evolution, South by's evolution is fascinating, right? Started off music in 87, and then eventually, 94, multimedia and film, which became interactive. And as these industries you've talked about this quite a bit, just throughout some of the things that I've read and just knowing you a little bit more personally, as these industries continue to blur the lines, right, between, what once made them so different, on top of a global pandemic now, right? What does the next evolution look like for South by Southwest?
Well, I think the next evolution is the one we're being, really forced to undertake for 2021, which is developing a much more robust online offering, and that's there's still in early December 2020, there's still a small chance we have some kind of small in-person gathering in March. Again, small chance, and if it happens, it would be small. Will largely be virtual. Um, the upside here is that assuming the vaccines work, assuming we're back to a relatively normal world in late 2021, 2022, we'll have a in-person event in 2022, and on top of that will be a very robust virtual event. So we'll have the hopefully best of both worlds, and you know, it would have been great, and in a perfect world we would have been developing these very robust online solutions for the last 5 years. We've done a little bit of that in terms of just, you know, live casting of keynotes, of bigger speeches, but haven't done as much of that as we probably should have. Certainly this crisis forces us to do that. And I think that's, you know, for better or for worse, that's like life in a lot of ways. Like
Yeah.
you keep meaning to do something, you keep meaning to do something, you don't do it, and then you're forced to do it by some kind of circumstance. Again, this circumstance is really painful for South by Southwest. It's even more painful for a ton of people out there. But the end result, I think, when we eventually get to the other side of this, will at South by Southwest at least will be stronger in a lot of ways.
A lot more immersive, right?
Yeah.
Leveraging kind of a lot of the technologies. It's a
Oh,
lot of the issues that the venues are having in general, right? Where
yeah.
they're very similar to the venue economy, right? They've waited a long time to adopt technology, and now that they've been forced into thinking how to do something more creatively, it's, you know, you're seeing the venues that have tech survive, right?
Right.
Versus ones that don't are trying to figure out and scrambling to do so. So helping launch, right, define or lead industry trends in conversations is something every conference aspires to do, but I would say more times than not, they very much so fall short of accomplishing that. South by's done an incredible job of doing this, in my opinion, year after year for decades. And so this is kind of a dual-sided question in that, you know, what do you believe is the main contributor to the continued success of South by Southwest? And how has being, you know, a global leader in your space kind of shaped your view of the world?
Well, the first question, how have we done this to the extent that we've done this? And I very much appreciate the nice words there. I think a lot of this is the fact of having a very engaged community and working with that community, getting ideas from that community, largely through the panel picker, but also just, you know, informally connecting with people, whether that's at a meetup, whether that's through an event we're traveling to, whether that's by email or some other channel. So again, understanding that what we do best is you know, create a space and a platform for these kinds of conversations and dialogues and meetings to occur. What other people probably do best is tell us what the most relevant conversations are, and that kind of division of labor has worked pretty well. Now it's not quite as black and white as that. We do a lot more curation at this point than maybe we did 5-10 years ago. But again, having those connections within the community is one of the things that has helped us stay very relevant, and certainly having the panel picker interface, which has some limitations, of course, but it is a just very clear, I think, North Star to the community that, hey, we want your input, we value your input, we treasure your input, and your input is a big part of the event. So that attention to the community, I think, is one of the primary ways we've stayed relevant. In terms of the second part of your question, I think, which was, do we feel a pressure, continued pressure, or continued
No, it was more
challenge?
so. It was more so around you personally, right? Like, how has, you know, because again, to show up and hit a grand slam every year is hard to do, right? No matter what it is you do, and again, right, South by is really, you know, 2 incredible weeks, and there's a lot leading up to it, after it, right? And I know you've done other stuff in different countries, but nothing quite as right
Yeah.
as gravity wise is Central Texas. And so the second question really was, you know, how has that helped shape your view personally of the world? And in kind of showing up every year and having all this curation, right? People all over the world.
Well, how has it shaped my view of the world? I mean, I'm a strong believer, certainly in the that what makes us compelling at South by Southwest or at the other 50 weeks of the year is strong international participation. I, on a number of levels, did not like the America First dialogue because I just don't think that's realistic. So that is very much one of the things that shaped our approach to South by Southwest, and one of the things from South by Southwest that continues to shape my understanding of the world and my personality and outlook. And I am incredibly proud that at this point, a quarter of our paid attendees are coming from out of the U.S. and coming to Austin, and so many of them have this perception that Austin is the coolest place in the world because of South by Southwest. And Austin is really cool, although often it's not quite as cool the other 50 weeks of the year as it is during South by Southwest, when there's just so many cool creative people here and so many things happening. That's
Yeah.
really fun. I think that the other another aspect to mention here is that it's, as South by Southwest has been fortunate enough to grow and evolve and change and scale, it's been harder and harder to keep really a track of what's going on here, a full understanding of what's going on here during March, because there's just so many different things happening at any given time. And that's what makes it compelling, but that's also what makes it sometimes completely overwhelming, whether you call that FOMO or just too much noise or whatever. There's just
Or
so much
anxiety.
stuff.
It's a fine line, right?
Yeah, exactly. But somewhere, someplace at any given time, someone's having a fascinating discussion, someone's debuting some new technology, someone's meeting a co-founder, someone's finding someone to invest in their company, someone's brainstorming on something that will be the next cool technology in a year or 2 years. It is just that kind of cosmic energy that makes March in Austin so special, and even more so because it's not just quote unquote tech people. We've got music people in town, we've got film people in town, we've now got athletes and chefs and politicians. Well, maybe they're not cool, but we'll let them in anyway, right?
Well, hey man, having Obama and Michelle Obama, I mean, that's huge, right?
Well, they're pretty cool, I'll go for that.
Yeah.
But just that energy and that vibrancy in the air in March. I'm certainly not too objective on this, but it's something that's palpable. It's something that really contributes to what makes Austin Austin, and I am so proud to have played a small role in doing this.
You're so modest and humble. I love it. But yeah, no, I played South by in 2010, and I'll never forget, because it was right around my birthday, which is March 21st. We were at a Red Bull stage, and there was nobody there at the time, right? It was late in the evening. Then all of a sudden, these bartenders started coming and manning their booths on the sides of kind of where the crowd would be, and then DJ Jazzy Jeff started spinning records, and then Mos Def came out and started spitting over DJ Jazzy Jeff, and we just happened to be there. We were just hanging out, and I was like, that's South by to me, right? And I'll never forget that experience. I haven't really had a birthday to top that yet. So it was really awesome, because we're hanging out with a bunch of other friends of ours that everybody was touring at the time, from all over the country, and we all kind of met up at South by. So
well, let's hope you have many, many more birthdays to try to top that.
Yeah, right.
We can come up with some even cooler scenarios.
I think so. I know there's a lot of people that you look up to. And you've talked a lot about Bruce Springsteen and Seth Godin in particular, but what I didn't find out a lot about is what companies inspire you and why.
Well, I'm going to frame this back to one of the things that just happened, and is unfortunately a 2020 thing. But the passing of Tony Hsieh last weekend, who'd been a big part of South by Southwest, was a opening speaker in at 2009 and spoken on a session in 2008. Also, he spoke at the event we did in Las Vegas called South by Southwest V2V. And that whole ethos that he established at Zappos of customer service above everything else, that customer service is our main goal. I think that has always been very inspiring. And just, reading the various obits and memories of Tony this past week have kind of jumped back into that and thought about that a lot. I think also the other thing to mention about Tony, which is really interesting given our current climate, is that he was he pushed this thing in Las Vegas called the Downtown Project, which was this idea of revitalizing Old Town Las Vegas and trying to make it a incredibly vibrant community. And I think that while
synchronistic collision, right?
Yes, exactly.
Was his
that
theory.
Was good. I don't think it quite ever reached its potential, but when you think about that versus thinking about where we are now, where we are locked up inside our houses, and we, there may be synchronistic collisions online, but nothing face to face. And that was what he wanted to do, was to create businesses, spaces where, again, people would meet and connect in the physical world. And that is all the more of a profound thought in terms of where the pandemic has left us in December.
Yeah, no, I do think that South by, I would imagine, probably inspired some of that thinking, because South by is a perfect example of synchronistic collisions, right?
Yeah, I heard Tony speak a couple times specifically about the Downtown Project, and he talked about how he thought that, how he wanted to create a space that replicated what happened at South by Southwest, where you're walking down the street and you ran into someone who you always wanted to meet and had a conversation, and there you go. And that was,
I love that,
really neat that we helped inspire that vision and that project. So that was cool.
When it comes to programming a conference, what does your process actually look like, and what are some best practices you would recommend, and what are some common mistakes that you often see?
Well, for South by Southwest in a traditional year, meaning a non-COVID year, so 2020 or 2022, we're starting that programming process in essentially June or July, when the process of pulling in speaking proposals begins. We are also kind of at another parallel layer, talking about who we want to curate, who we want to reach out to, what we think the trends are going to be in 6 months from now. I think that one of our challenges at the scale of South by Southwest is that we do have to start this process 7 or 8 months ahead of time. So it's that leaves us a little less able to focus on what's actually happening this week. There's still some of that, or this week or this month, but I also think that what we invariably find is that the most interesting speakers are often the ones that are talking about bigger trends, as opposed to just the meme of what last week's meme. In terms of best practices, I think again, just the more discussion we can do within our staff on this, and trying to poke holes in every idea, the better we are. And I think that what has also become more challenging in recent years is the social media back channel, however you want to phrase that, the fact that we know more about everyone out there, and there's essentially cancel culture, and having, bringing someone on who we didn't fully vet, and oh no, they've got this thing in their past, this skeleton in their closet, and how do we deal with that? We've been better, I think we've gotten better systems to avoid those kind of problems, but that doesn't mean we've completely eliminated those problems. And so again, my tips or suggestions for people who are doing this, trying to do this. Well, tip number one is not brain surgery. Anyone who wants to put the work in can pull together some incredible speakers, whether that's for your meetup in Austin or for something that's a slightly bigger event, and scale. This quantity does not equate to quality. But again, I just think be very intentional, very strategic. Think through the speakers. Think exactly what you want. One of the benefits that we have in 2020 that we didn't have in 1987 is you can basically find a YouTube video of anybody out there. So it's no longer that you could say, well, I really like this person, but I wonder what kind of speaker she is.
Does anybody know anybody who knows somebody that knows them?
Yeah, now you can find them through the YouTube video, through social media. You can also find out what if they're good in front of an audience, if they can hold.
And if you follow them on Instagram, you can find out what they had for lunch.
Yes, that too. Goodness knows that's what we need to find out.
Well, you gotta know what's going to be in the green room, right? I mean, you gotta.
Well, that too.
A little proactive.
Purple M&Ms or magenta M&Ms, right?
Exactly. But what are some big mistakes that you see often though, in people putting on events and conferences?
I think that big mistakes are putting together sessions that are kind of too general, that try to cover too much ground, and that's what it's one of the biggest problems we find throughout, is that, wow, this person looked like she was going to be a great speaker, but she tried to cover so much that it wasn't particularly as compelling as what we thought. I also think that mistake you find is or tip is that fewer speakers are better, meaning solo presentations or two-person presentations often are better than a four-person panel. I've seen this as an organizer. I've also seen it in terms of being on panels myself, that if you're on a panel with three other people, you tend to think, well, the other three people will prepare for what they're doing, and I can kind of just wing it when I get on stage. Unfortunately, everybody on the panel thinks that, so no one prepares, and everyone tends to wing it.
Oh no!
So when a panel is great, it is phenomenal. And the analogy that I've heard many times is like it's like a great string quartet, but the ratio of home runs, grand slams, to use your previous analogy, to strikeouts on panels is much higher than in solo presentations or two-person presentations, where if you're doing a solo presentation, you're probably going to have to put in some effort to prepare for it beforehand, because most of us can't go on stage and completely wing it. Now, some people can do that, and they're really good.
But I think what a lot of people fail to realize too is the people that can wing it are the people that have been doing it.
Yeah.
Right. But they still have, they always go back to certain methodologies on how they prepare things leading up to it. Right. Like, and so that's because we would do that when we would, before we'd go on stage perform as musicians. Right. I mean, it's and then I mean, you got to feed off the audience as a speaker. It's even harder when you're playing music. Yeah. If nobody's paying attention or dancing, or it's like, you're not doing a good job, right? So I always I've always told people, if you don't have the attention of the back of the room, chances are you don't have the attention of anybody. But that's a really good point for sure.
Well, your points there are great, and as an organizer, as someone who is fortunate enough to be asked to speak more often now, I'm still learning that science, if you can call it a science, of energy and engagement. There's sometimes when I'm speaking where, wow, I feel like the crowd is largely engaged. The other times I just don't have them. And, I have some cheats that I bring now that help do that. And, where I'll ask a trivia question, and whoever answers the trivia question first wins a free badge or something like that. It just, I mean, that's a total hack and total cheat, but it does create, that interaction between you and the audience, which is which is what you want in a conference, which is what you want when you're a band playing on stage,
Yep.
in any kind of atmosphere, you want to be able to connect with the audience.
So I'm thinking back to probably the last 5 times I ran into you at an event that you were speaking at, and you did use you used the ticket giveaway every time. Now that I'm thinking back on it, I'm like, wait a minute, I know this has happened before.
It's a slightly cheaper way.
No, but I love it though. I love it though, right? I mean, like things that people want to be a part of something. I think people fail to realize that, right? And that's why people are so burnt out on fucking Zoom calls, right? Like, yeah, I get it, right? But like, how do I engage more? How do we make it more immersive?
Right.
How do we play back and forth? There's too many tools out there nowadays for us to be able to do stuff like that. And the fact that if we don't use them, then it's to our own dismay, right?
I was going to say the ticket giveaway is a slightly cheaper, and by saying slightly, I'm being cynical, of the, Oprah, your car key is your new car is under your seat thing, which I mean, that can create some audience.
Right? we got to make that meme of you though, right? And like pointing to the crowd, right? And you get a ticket to South by, and you get a ticket to South by. So I know people tend to or try to be habitual as much as possible, and I know it was the inspiration from Seth Godin that really you started to fine tune your writing muscle. Are there other daily routines that you kind of hold near and dear? What does it look like for you?
I think my biggest daily routine at this point is I am pretty good at waking up really early in the mornings during the week. I sleep in like crazy in the weekends and enjoy that like hell. But I can get in, particularly during the busy season of South by Southwest, I can get in a couple of hours of email, of thought time before meetings start, and that's very valuable. And to be clear, I hate waking up early in the morning, whether it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. I somewhat justify this with the realization, or with the cheat, or that I can give this to myself, that, well, it's equally hard to wake up at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Waking up just sucks one way or another. And so if you do it early, you can get out of the way. And, after a cup of coffee, you're kind of good. So that got through that first 5 or 10 minutes. But that's been my particular hack, is just trying to get a lot of productivity in at the early part of the day. And that helps a whole lot.
It does. I love that. I'm the same mind, but I've got a 6-year-old, so I'm up at 6:30 anyway. And now that he's doing at-home learning, I'm up even earlier, right? Trying to figure that out. And so when people think of South by Southwest, what do you hope comes to mind for them?
I hope that they think that one of their main associations is creativity. Again, I think that's the bottom line to everything we do. It's what the event still focuses on, and what it focused on 30 years ago. And it's what makes Austin special. It's what makes humans special as compared to the machines that can do so much. And so I hope that's one of their first primary associations with the event.
Love that. And yeah, I think every sense of the word you guys have filled out. So absolutely. This is my favorite question that I ask everybody. If you had a superhero power, what would it be?
If I had a superhero power, what would it be? It would be, I would love to be able to learn a foreign language. Maybe that's not even a superhero power, but it has completely eluded me in my numerous decades on this earth so far. And partly at this point, it's just not having the time to devote to it. And it's difficult, and when there's something difficult and you don't have time for it, you kind of push it to the
back. And like in the foreign language, it's like an instrument. If you're not practicing it, practicing with somebody else, it's like it's really hard to do that. I'm like right there, with Spanish, and but I'm not there, like,
Well,
it's like, yeah, but I'm in the same
if
boat.
you're
So,
if you're right there, you are much farther than I am. I've got the books. They're
okay,
all over
yeah.
there on the shelves, and they're right there
You
in
know
that
what?
sense, but no closer.
There's a few startups that are already figuring that out for us, right? So probably in the next 3 years, in our Apple AirPods, when somebody speaks to us in a different language, it's just going to translate automatically.
Yeah, there is that, but I think that, and maybe that's the answer. This is just something we shouldn't worry about. We don't need to waste our time on. But I think there is a process to learn. My understanding from afar is the process of learning a language, a foreign language, again, immerses you, or better immerses you in that culture, and gives you a better appreciation of this global society we live in.
That's true. No, I completely agree with you on that one. So maybe the superhero power was more just to understand all languages and cultures, right?
Okay,
Like
well,
automatically, right? Like it's just like you can you could speak in every language imaginable. So then you can pass the learning side of it, and just you're already kind of there, right?
that sounds a bit hellish, but
Yeah.
there's always that yin and yang to any superpower, I guess,
Well,
right?
but we, when you're speaking though at like the uh, whether some world platform, how they always have the translators, you could just translate it for yourself, right? In all the different languages.
True.
Like, how impressive would that be? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Anything else that you want to share? Anything else that especially with South by, obviously coming up, not too long from now. Anything in particular that you want the audience to know about? Or besides South by Southwest.com, where they can maybe learn what tips now and what to expect in the next few months?
Well, I will just reiterate some of what we talked about previously. I mean, this 2021 is going to be a very, very different year.
Mm.
As with everything else, 2020 and 2021. It's going to be a smaller footprint for South by Southwest. There's going to be slightly less content. It's going to be a different kind of networking. That said, again, we're very excited about a lot of the opportunities here. There's a lower price point to buy a pass this year, much lower. So we think that opens up to us to a new audience.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you don't have to travel here, you don't have to worry about a hotel, you don't have to worry about all those kinds of challenges, will open us up to a new audience also. And another thing that we're really excited about is that the virtual space, pretty much eliminates one of our biggest pain points over the last decade, which was that you can't get into a room with blank blank in it.
Right.
Well, I really wanted to go see Obama when he spoke, but I didn't win the lottery, so I didn't get in. So,
Right.
now anyone can get into those sessions. It's certainly a little bit different experience online than being in the same room. But again, you won't have that line being stuck in
No
the
barrier of
queue.
accessibility. Yeah,
Yes,
I
yes.
love that. Yeah,
So
yeah.
that changes things in a lot of ways, and really excited about how that will play out.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited. At MediaTech, of course, we love you guys, and we'll continue to work with you guys for as long as we're both around. Thank you
Which
for
we hope is a long, long time.
exactly, and we got to work on the birthday thing, right? So,
John, thanks for having me on. This has been a great conversation. I love your energy, and keep doing what you and Paul are doing at MediaTech, and let's all keep doing what we're doing in Austin. We know this is going to be a tough few months ahead, but we're going to come out of this even stronger, and really excited about the
a
future.
lot of exciting announcements on our side coming too. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that offline. Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you to our partners in Sparity for making this happen. Another solid episode of Community Spotlight. If you know anybody that's doing incredible work in the media technology economy, let us know. John at MediaTech.ventures. We're always looking for interesting people doing interesting things. Thanks, Hugh. Talk soon.
Thanks, John.